Happy holidays from the Signal Watch podcast. The world is full of movies about Christmas and the Yuletide season. But some movies just happen to take place at Christmas for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Hi, I'm your host, Ryan Steens. This holiday season, join me and our cadre of co-contributors as we examine movies that are kinda, sorta holiday adjacent, more than an actual Christmas movie. It's not exactly Christmas movies, but you can't say they don't occur during Christmas, so you get it. Stay tuned. We're gonna try to make this work.
Happy holidays from the Signal Watch. We are doing something a little different this year. We've started with the WKRP episode, and as we head in towards the Christmas season, what we decided we were going to do is do movies that were kind of Christmas adjacent. They're not necessarily about Christmas, but they take place at Christmas, whether it makes sense or not. And Simon and I talked back and forth. He churned on this. He went back to Simon Laboratories and started looking into what would be the best possible movie that fit the bill. And you came up with...
I don't know if you should say best movie in the same sentence. It has anything to do with this. But
it's giving you a lot of credit calling it a movie.
Yeah, I'd say a bunch of bad sketches. Yeah, so originally you talked about this and you said you want to do something alternative, kind of Christmas movie, not the usual stuff. And so originally I was going to do The Long Kiss Goodnight, which we might still be able to do. But then a friend of mine, I've got to give a shout out to a friend called Chris Vaughan, reminded me...
Oh, it's Chris Vaughan?
Chris is
brilliant. Way to go, Chris.
It's your fault, Chris. Who's an even bigger Jaws fan than me, if that's possible. He said, well, you know, Jaws: The Revenge is a Christmas movie. And I kind of knew that, but I'd kind of forgotten it. And then I was like, actually, he's right. So I said to you, we should do Jaws: Revenge. And I apologise deeply to you and Jamie for making you... For 90 minutes, you're never going to get back, basically.
So, yeah, Jamie's with us. Say hi.
Hello.
And Jamie, you love a good shark movie.
I love a good bad shark movie, too. Although I did not love this one. I love comedic sharks. Sharks for comedic purposes.
I don't think this fit the bill.
It did not fit the bill.
So I remember this coming out, and it basically, the reviews of it stopped and started with...
Shit. It reminds me of Spinal Tap. Shark sandwich. Shit sandwich?
But they were basically like, it's about a shark that is out for revenge. I mean, it's in the title.
Well, the central concept, I mean, before we talk about anything, the central concept is so deeply flawed and stupid that how did it get past any stage of development?
It really, you can't believe this isn't a spoof.
Yeah.
Or something that someone like was pitching in a movie about Hollywood, about being something really stupid some exec would latch onto.
Well, Jaws 3 was originally going to be Jaws 3 Human Zero. And that was going to be directed by Joe Dante. He was going to be a spoof. A National Lampoon's type thing.
Yeah.
And then last minute Universal went, no, we don't want to do that to the franchise, we want to take it seriously.
Oh yeah, let's take it seriously.
as much as you can.
Set it at SeaWorld to get Lou Gossett Jr.
Get Dennis Quaid, a drunk Dennis Quaid, to run around shouting. But obviously with this, I mean, I was telling you guys earlier this was really the brainchild of Lorraine Gary, who was married to the head of Universal, which is always handy, Sid Sheinberg, and she hadn't acted, I think, for 6 or 8 years, and she wanted to do a Jaws movie, and she wanted to be the hero. And so it's her fault, really. The whole thing's her fault. And everything stems from that.
It really... when Simon... We stopped the movie at some point, and Simon was explaining this to me, and you can just... I felt all the pieces click together, because before that, you're just like, how did any of this happen?
Why is this happening?
But you can see, like, her wanting that, and they're like, anything she says, we're just doing. Because the thing that confused me is, I didn't look to see who wrote it, but the producer and director was one person. So I was like, what sort of crazy auteur theory led to
I got an image in my brain.
Right. This is what I'm doing. But you can see more of someone going, this is my shot to please Universal so I can do something I actually want to do.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Well, he was I mean, Joseph Sargent, I feel really sorry for him because this killed his career. And he's capable of good films. He did the original Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you're kidding me.
With Walter Matthau.
Really?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good movie. Robert Shaw.
This is killing me inside hearing this.
He did Colossus, the Forbin Project, which I love.
Yeah.
Great sci-fi movie. Kind of like a little bit like the Terminator before the Terminator. And that poor guy, was kind of brought in and probably just made to follow orders. Plus, all the previous Jaws movies had 2 years development. This was rushed through in 9 months, which I think was the fastest tracked theatrical movie at the time for that to happen from start to finish.
Well, it feels like it. Well, I find it curious that she wanted to be the hero in this movie, and yet
she ends up pumping the
cries
boat
throughout the entire movie, and then has to be rescued at the end.
Well, she also ends up at the end pumping the boat out. Everybody else is like, oh dear, I'll blood the shark. Mum, pump the boat out.
Right. Yeah, it's you can tell she had things she thought she was good at as an actor.
Yeah.
And
Emoting.
And she wrote as many of the pained mother scenes into this as possible.
There are a lot. And the beginning is a pure roller coaster of emotions.
It's cry fest.
It's like we're all bawling our eyes out. Now it's Christmas. It's just
so depressing.
This film, back and forth.
This film is so depressing, and it's like until Michael Caine turns up and just won't stop talking and telling stories.
It's
the best part of the movie are the Michael Caine stories.
But everybody cries. It's just
so it starts with So one of the things that Simon also had to clear up for me was this is the fourth in a series. But without saying anything about it, completely ignores the third movie. Because in this movie, Dennis Quaid plays Michael, the elder son of the Brody clan.
Who's the chief SeaWorld engineer in that movie.
Right. And in this one, it's like, oh, now he's a scientist. And I was like, well, I can see how a Hollywood dumb would think that would make sense. But okay. But then in the movie, the scientist in Jaws 3 was Bess Armstrong, his love interest.
Yeah.
She was a straight-up PhD, oceanographer or whatever.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, she's like a welding artist. She's like a makes statues. And I was like...
She likes sex.
What? Yeah. She's incredibly horny through the entire
Was it the
movie.
same character name? Was it
I
supposed
don't know. I didn't bother.
I doubt it highly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they basically ignored Jaws 3, which they did not do us the courtesy of announcing.
Well, the weird thing, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the weird thing is, right, so I wrote this down last night because I thought it was interesting. The press release said, the third film in the remarkable trilogy, which is not true. But the chase scene with the shark, where it's chasing him through the kind of ship, the ship kind of wreck underneath the ocean, was lifted from an early draft of Jaws 3D. So they're basically saying, this is the third movie in our trilogy, but we're going to nick an idea from the third film that we didn't use and put it in this one. So it's just so weird and confused.
So at the beginning of the movie, Sean, the younger son.
I should say, sorry to interrupt, but I should also say the shark, because we talked about this a little bit. So they never say anything in this movie because they cut out a lot of story in the movie we just watched. But in the novelisation by Hank Searles, and I'll talk about that more later, the shark is supposed to be the offspring. The shark in this is supposed to be the offspring of the sharks from the first and second film.
Oh, okay.
So in the first film, it was a male shark, got blown up, obviously. Before it started causing trouble, it had mated with the shark from the second film, which was a female. As she was getting electrocuted, and she says this in the novel, she gives birth to this one as she's getting electrocuted by Brody. It's kind of all bullshit. It's all massive bullshit. But at least it kind of makes it a little bit more make sense.
Does it?
So the baby shark is out for revenge.
Yeah.
So its dad blown up. We didn't see, but his dad was blown up. His mum was electrocuted.
It's like the Hatfield and McCoys of the Brodies and the Jawses. Oh my god. So the movie starts with suggesting that a shark has jammed a log into a buoy.
Set a trap.
Yeah, set a trap for Sean to have to go clear it out so he can spring on Sean. I mean,
which makes
there's also psychic powers in this movie.
What's supernatural? It's a supernatural film.
Yeah, she has a spidey sense. She has sharky sense.
Yeah,
sharky sense.
Yeah.
She can have flashbacks to things she didn't see or experience,
right? Including from the shark's POV.
Including from
to better films.
Yeah. It's a whole ride, man.
I also wondered, say somebody else, say he hadn't been available or had left the sheriff's office a bit earlier, Sean had gone home, if another person had gone out to move the log, would it have killed them? Or would it have just gone, shit?
I think it had a plan B. It was going to wait for him to try and get home and then pose as a hitchhiker.
Do you remember years ago after Jaws came out, there was a Saturday Night Live sketch with Dan Aykroyd? Yeah, and the shark came knocking on the door and then attacking people. It's like that.
Yeah, it's a very clever shark.
You're that clever shark, aren't you?
Yeah, it was 10 levels of crazy. I mean, it's well worth watching just to see a movie that has just so completely gone off the rails.
Yeah. It's kind of madness.
Yeah. Was it ever on the rails?
I don't know. So,
the script.
I mean, I remember seeing the novelization. I mean, I remember reading the reviews, and then for whatever reason in middle school when this came out, I remember seeing the novelization sitting at the cash register at the drugstore and being like, "That's not a good sign that this is a quality movie." And thus I skipped the movie.
Well, I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to Jaws stuff. So I used to have the novelization, which is by Hank Searles, and I would say, in this movie, the only two people who come out of this well is Hank Searles, who did the novelisation, and I think Michael Smalls, who did the soundtrack, who actually does a pretty good sea shanty-ish soundtrack. His previous soundtracks were Parallax View, Marathon Man, the original Stepford Wives. So he was, he knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. I think he used John Williams pretty well. But yeah, Hank Searles did the novelisation of Jaws 2 and this one. And I've got to read you this because this made me laugh a lot last night. So basically, there was extra stuff in the novelisation about the shark's perspective. There was also this subplot, which sounds terrible when I tell you, but it actually kind of made more sense than the film does, where Michael Brody had pissed off a local witch doctor who'd put a curse on him and was using the shark. So it's actually the revenge of the witch doctor, and the shark is just a tool.
Sadly, that makes more sense.
And at the end, this witch doctor, I think when they kill the shark, this witch doctor has a heart attack and dies because he's linked to the shark. But this is the best bit, right? Hoagie, played by Michael Caine, in the book, I haven't read the book for years, but I just looked this up last night, is chased by Latino assassins at the start when you first meet him. But you find out later, and the only thing left from this in the film is when he says, "I deliver laundry." Mm-hmm. So in the book, he's working for the DEA to bring down a drug baron who allowed his 16-year-old daughter to die of a cocaine overdose. So straight after that, last night by myself, I spent about 10 minutes going, she was only 60.
Oh, if only they'd left that in the movie.
But the book at least, and the book kind of does other things. It actually links up the Jaws novel because it mentions the affair with Hooper. It mentions Jaws 2 and what happened in Jaws 2, which this doesn't bother with at all. So in all, even though it's imperfect, it is a much more cohesive story than you see in the movie, because Hank Sells does try to link stuff up.
Yeah, stuff is so incoherent in this movie that they have all these scenes they shot in Amity, which I think was probably Amity. And they brought in...
It's Martha's Vineyard at the start again.
Yeah, they brought in like characters you remember from the first Jaws.
Yeah, Mrs. Kidner and the councilwoman, and
really briefly you get to see them. And you're like, oh, okay, there they were. But
there's a big fuck you to sorry for my language. There's a big fuck you for Roy Schneider though, because originally they asked Roy Schneider to be in the film, and he was gonna be playing Sean's part and get eaten at the start. Which straight away, as a Jaws fan, do you want to see the hero of the first two films get eaten at the start of the fourth one? No, not really. But he told them to obviously, fuck off. So they went with Sean. But I feel like they've got a picture of him in the film just to piss off Roy Schneider.
in the police department,
just so they can go, we got
wall.
you in the film, even if you didn't want to be in the film, you're still in the film.
So Lorraine Gray's like, she's gnashing her teeth, and she's just biting into these scenes, like, oh, I can be a pained mother. And she's like, no one can go near the water as she's standing at the water.
Yeah. I'm going on the ferry now.
Yeah, and then they immediately... Oh, keep in mind, this is, tying it all in with Christmas, no one hears Sean's death wails because there's kids caroling too loudly on the dock.
I kind of like that.
Hilarious.
I kind of like that because it's a bit kind of not spooky, but it's a bit kind of like, I guess it kind of works.
I think the idea works. I think if they had been edited better, and it could have been, it would have been brilliant.
This movie has major editing
was
issues.
Terribly edited.
Yeah.
It was really choppy.
Also, Paul Greengrass thinks he's doing a Bourne film and has turned up to this, and it's like, shake your can.
They also have...
They've also got blood in the water before Sean gets attacked. Have you seen that?
No, I didn't.
So every time the child
then
turns
there's
up...
blood in the water at the end, and he didn't kill anyone.
Yeah. There's like, more blood. Hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah. Every time you see the shark, there's blood in the water. Even if he's biting the side of a boat, it's a choice. But yeah, there's this weird thing they also do, and I know we haven't even gotten past the first 30 seconds of the movie, but where everybody talks over each other, much as we're doing, but it's like they learned all the wrong things from like Robert Altman. It's like, it's this family dynamic where it's kind of chaotic, and you're like, we don't know who any of you people are, and you just did a scene where you're all yelling into one telephone, and relaying parts of messages and in-jokes to each other, but...
Well, it's just a terrible script. It's like a bad soap opera. Every time they're on land, it's a bad soap opera.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not particularly pushing the script forward. They keep repeating the same conversation. Mm-hmm. And then the characters will do the opposite. Like Michael keeps going back in the water. It's almost like he's got a death wish. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for him. After he's had 2 near-death experiences, and he goes, but I've got to go, like you said, I've got to go camera.
He gets chased by the shark through a boat.
Yeah.
And almost gets trapped down there. And the very next day goes back in the water.
And he tells nobody.
He tells nobody.
Yeah.
Which nearly leads to his daughter being killed.
Yeah.
And actually does lead to a woman being killed. Yeah. That's his fault.
But we don't know who she is, and it's the 80s, so we don't care. People who don't know who they are in the 80s are just there for cannon fodder. But yeah, it's anyway. But yeah, Lorraine Gary's like, no one go near the water, and then immediately then they're on a ferry boat, and then immediately they fly to a freaking Bahamian island. Like it's and that's where they're going to spend their rest on a beach house.
Like, let's traumatize mom some more. Let's take her to the water again. God.
And then they have the whole like immediately she gets off the plane and the daughter's swinging on.
I think you're going to say she gets off with Michael Caine.
Yeah. And so the movie is PG.
This middle-aged romance that runs through the core of this film.
Yeah, it's a PG-13 movie, which meant they were indicating we want to sell this to kids. We want kids to show up. And then there's
what the kids want.
Yeah, this long, drawn-out romance between her like rediscovering her getting her groove back, with Michael Caine and
2 50-year-olds dancing slowly.
Yeah.
That's what the kids want.
And the adult son being like really bent out of shape about it.
Yeah.
Like more bent out of shape about that than the fact he almost got eaten by a shark. And it's like, who was this for? Like, maybe she was making a movie to entertain her friend group?
I think she just wanted to be in a film. I read a couple of interviews with Lorraine Gary, and she was like, I always want to work with Michael Caine, and I was giddy as a schoolgirl on the first day shooting, and he put me at ease. She's just doing what she's kind of ticking off her bucket list, and it's not necessarily fitting into a Jaws film.
Yeah.
You know, I think Michael Caine's a cool kind of addition, because even when I was a kid, he's in that box that you used to have on posters where the person is basically like a slightly long cameo.
Yeah.
So you know they're not going to be in that for long. But he kind of gave it, like Sean Connery in Highlander 2, but it kind of gave me false hope. And then as soon as he turns up and starts talking, you're like, no, this isn't going to help. In fact, this might make things worse.
Yeah, I remember you'd given me the book Elephant to Hollywood. I think that's right. And it's one of his memoirs, and in it he basically says he can't really remember making this movie. You know, he doesn't have much to say about it other than...
Well, there's a great quote. Some interviewer got hold of him like years after this, and they said, what do you think about Jaws the Revenge? And he goes, I haven't actually seen it, but by all accounts it's terrible. But I have seen the house it paid for, and it's very nice.
He spent his time drinking Bahama Breeze.
It was Bahama Mamas.
It was?
Yeah, that was one of the greatest lines I've ever heard in a movie. I'll just have whatever we had last time. He goes, to Bahama Mamas. And you're just like, yes! Those are two words I wanted to hear him say side by side. That was...
He couldn't accept his Oscar for Hannah and His Sisters because he was stuck in the Bahamas doing reshoots. So, for this.
Wow.
But, so anyway, the plot is that the shark tracks them from Amity.
It tracks them, and it travels 1,193 miles.
Oh, thanks for looking that up.
Without GPS, gets to exactly the right spot, and then I guess just hangs out and waits for Michael to...
It's a psychic link.
Yeah, what's fascinating about it is the shark shows up, that means in Amity, not in the 4th of July. It shows up in the dead of winter to lay this trap.
Yeah.
It could do this any time of year. Like, a shark might be comfortable here at the 4th of July when there's things to eat, there's things to do here for a shark, but I'm going to go ahead and set this trap at Christmas. I'm going to really ruin their holiday. That's how diabolical this shark is.
Well, also, I mean, a shark wouldn't be in water that warm anyway, would it? It wouldn't want to be in that water that warm. Because the Amity bit at the start seems to make more sense. Because I don't know. I do know sharks.
I've watched some Shark Week. They do kind of travel up and down like the West Coast and out to Hawaii.
All right.
They will go into warm water. I don't think there's any great whites in the Bahamas.
I think so. I think it's too warm for them.
There are now.
Yeah.
Well, until now. But yeah. Anyway, it's a plot hole.
Well, also, okay. So this is a franchise that not only went downhill faster than any other I can think of. Maybe The Howling beat it, but also it actually kind of goes against previous entries, because I don't know if you remember, but in Jaws 2 they find that killer whale washed up on the beach, and there's an oceanologist kind of looking at it, and Brody's kind of hanging around, and he's obviously a bit worried, and he hasn't really told anybody yet, but he's like, could a shark have done this? And she's like, we won't know until we run tests. And he actually says, if a shark was destroyed, is there any chance that another one could... And she cuts him off and goes, sharks don't take things personally, Sheriff. And he's like, okay. And it's like, so that was Jaws 2, and then you based an entire film on it for Jaws 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
it's...
This time it's personal.
Yeah. As you said, there's all this business that happens on land. The business...
So tedious.
Yeah. And like, they do introduce a wife for Lance Guest's Michael, and her role really is...
Karen Young. She's quite cute.
Yeah. To reassure us that he is...
A man.
Yeah, having sex at every possible opportunity. And sometimes not. It's not... He's being maybe coerced into it.
Yeah, like forced to have sex against his will.
Yeah,
by an angry welder.
Yeah,
they have an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to have sex with an angry welder.
Yeah, that's
the famous line.
In an open shed with goats and people outside.
But he says, ever since I was a small boy.
I think I'm going to posit that was something that Lance Guest improvised and they kept in the movie.
It just do it, Lance.
Yeah, and they were like, that's hilarious. Because it's more clever than anything else that happens in the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of off character because all he does otherwise is kind of look as if he's upset that he's not going to get out of the trailer park.
Yeah.
That's all we really see the rest out of Lance Guest is he's worried about him and Mags.
Well, he's also very selfish, isn't he? Like Jamie said through the movie, he's actually very selfish because he doesn't seem to mourn his brother that much.
No, they forget about Sean about 30 minutes.
Oh, and who's the Van Peebles character? What's his name?
Mario Van Peebles.
Mario Van Peebles.
Oh god.
So is he such a jerk? He's like keeps making really inappropriate jokes, and this guy's brother just died by a shark.
Yeah.
And I can't work out if Mario Van Peebles is racist because if I did like a Jamaican accent like that, I would be these days racist. But the way he's playing it seems to be very broad.
I think they just asked him to do a Jamaican accent. He was like, "Sure, I can do that," and this is what happened.
Yeah, and the thing is, he couldn't. So
no.
Yeah, it was a weird period. He suddenly appeared. He's the son
because he's talented. He's a very talented guy.
He's been in stuff.
He's directed.
I think New Jack City is a great movie.
Yeah.
But that's all I'll say.
Heartbreak Ridge is a classic. He's in Heartbreak Ridge.
But yeah, this is that window where suddenly the son of like lauded indie director Melvin Van Peebles decided to go as mainstream as humanly possible and cash in. Had his window, showed up in stuff like this, and I remember being able to go to Walgreens and buy a poster of Sunny Spoon and being like, trying to imagine the kid who has a Sunny Spoon poster on their wall, but okay. And then that was it. He ended up kind of villains in a lot of straight-to-DVD action movies and stuff. I think, first of all, when he was young enough, like around this time, he was kind of hero. Mm-hmm. And then slowly transitioned into the villain type role. But he never really broke out. Yeah, he did. He did a couple westerns or something like that eventually. But let's talk about the ending though, because actually, it is fair to skip over the entire middle of the movie. Well, so I'm just thinking about his death though, which were cheated. His death. His in death. Quotes? Yeah. His many deaths. I mean, so the original ending. So there's two endings to this, and one of them, the DVD ending, is the shark's impaled, explodes for no reason because there's no explosives. So we just watched Little Mermaid, and so when I saw the boat, I was like, "Oh, what's she gonna do?" Because you keep in mind when she goes to pursue the shark at the end, nonsensically she jumps on a very large, nice boat with no weapons or anything, and you're plan. All she'll be able to do is like curse out the shark from the edge of the boat. Like I don't know what her plan was, but then I was like, "Oh, what's she going to do? Spear the boat?" And Simon turns and looks at me and goes, "No spoilers." And I was like, "What?" Because at the end of Little Mermaid, Prince Eric spears Ursula the Sea Witch with the boat. I've never seen the Little Mermaid. Sorry, spoilers. That's how it ends. So that ripped off Jules the Revenge? Yes. They must have been counting on. No one's seen Jaws the Revenge. We're good. Well, this one just this ending, the first ending, it's impaled, explodes for no reason because there's no explosives, and Jake lives. He pops up and he kind of goes like, phew, that was close. Yeah. Even though I was in its mouth and being chewed, and then the other one, the theatrical, I guess was So he lives in that one, and then in the other one, the original ending, which I guess was the theatrical one, it's impaled. Wait, this is just to the DVD? This is the DVD one we're watching. They changed the ending from... Yeah, because I vaguely remember as a kid, the theatrical one was it's impaled, thrashes around, kind of breaks off the front of the boat and just sinks and dies. That would make sense. And actually, that one's better because they had to shoot that. Yeah. Whereas in the DVD one, where it blows up, they use the end of Jaws. Yeah. But Jake stays dead in the theatrical one, which I personally preferred because it just really annoys me. I mean, if you watch that scene, he's real dead. Yeah. There's blood all over the place, and, he's in his mouth waving. Because he pops up literally, and the great thing is... But then Michael Caine's dead briefly.
Because like it attacks him in the plane, he goes, "Oh shit," and like climbs back in his plane, and the next minute
Somehow he reappears on the boat.
in his dry shirt,
Yeah.
going, "Phew, that's close." So Michael Caine, you never swam 50 meters that fast in your life. Like teleported onto the yacht.
Oh my god. But yeah, so it was clearly a reshoot done at the studio because you can see the cloud background.
The
it's
trees
shot in the
show.
pool. Yeah, and you can see the water lapping against it. It's like, oh, guys.
Well, let's talk about the problems with this. So
Were we not already?
well, just the ones I wrote down last night. So Chief Brody's dead. Mm-hmm. But they say he died of fear.
Yeah.
They said it took 6 years after the shark, but he died of fear. What's that mean? What does that mean?
Because the entire first movie, I've never seen Jaws 2. I've seen 3, and now I've seen this
Oh,
one.
we got watch Jaws 2. Don't worry, it's good. It's better than this.
But it's, it's about him overcoming his fear. That's what the entire point of the movie is. So
Well, surely if there's one guy who wouldn't die of fear
Right.
of sharks, is the guy who killed two massive ones.
So it's Lorraine Gary basically not understanding the movies she was in,
Yeah.
which is, hats off to her for that. And thinking that adding in psychic powers was the way to go with the Jaws franchise movie.
Well, there's psychic link as well. So she can sense when the shark's close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then she doesn't when the kid goes on the banana boat.
She does.
She was looking over there, concerned.
Because she starts going, oh, like my sharky sense is going off, and like looking that way. Because everyone else is like, yeah, go get on the banana boat, go have a time.
So we thinking that at the end she knows where it is. So she's heading for it.
I guess.
Sure.
For a showdown.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, in the course of that, Mario Van
Rationalise this for me,
and
Brian.
Lance
Rationalise
Guest
this
get
for me.
in a little boat, and they
Which again is a shit
find
plan, terrible
Hoagie
plan.
while he
Oh,
they-
no, they are all three in separate
they're in
boats.
separate boats till
Having a
they
conversation.
decide the thing to do is to track her down on a plane, which makes no sense because you can't get from a plane to a boat until they go, oh, I know how to solve this. Let's ruin a like $40,000, $50,000
If
plane.
I do this, the ocean gets bigger. It gets too big. Yeah, how many planes does Michael Caine get through? Because that's the
I
third.
think
By the end,
there's
he's
3
got.
planes, yeah.
Would they keep employing him? Because I don't think that's his own business.
He's getting a lot of drug money.
Yeah.
No, he works for the DEA.
He's playing both
She was
sides.
only 16.
But he,
This is while the shark's roaring.
yeah.
Oh my god.
So they keep giving it electric shocks.
Yeah.
And it's obviously
With a flashlight.
Lantern.
Yeah.
Is that like a battery shock?
It would be, it would be the equivalent of
9 volt.
Yeah, licking a battery. Like,
It isn't like that.
yeah. They could have done something. The thing is, had they done 5 minutes of research, they could have done something where they were just going to drop it in the water around the boat to keep the shark from attacking. Because sharks do use like an electromagnetic sensor thing. That's how they pick up vibrations in the water and find other fish.
Yeah.
This is a legit scientific thing. So someone had heard that in the back of their mind, but they totally misunderstood it and thought, oh, he has to eat the... And I assume the exploding shark was supposed to be the battery exploding.
I think that's what we were to believe, yes.
I mean, also just the lackadaisical way that the shark looks terrible. It actually looks like the shark from the Jaws ride at Universal rather than the shark.
And maybe that's what they did. Maybe they used the cast from that.
Yeah, I mean, people always give. What I don't like is people always give the shark in the original Jaws kind of shit and go, oh, it looks fake. And I'm like, I think it actually looks pretty good.
Coincidentally, I was at Universal. The only time I've ever been to Universal Studios and took that tour was in 1987, which I believe is when this movie came out.
Yeah,
And yeah, that shark looked exactly like that.
yeah.
I bet they just used the cast.
I mean, it almost rears up on its tail, way too high out the water, way too high.
Oh yeah.
Well, so the thing isn't so much that it can get out of the water, because sharks can literally, when they get a seal, they will come
But
completely
they
out
have
of the
speed.
water. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like parallel with the water, like skimming on
There
the
were
top.
times where the shark looked like it was standing on something and like chewing. When it got the lady off the banana boat,
Yeah.
like it was just like holding in place. And it's like that's physical anyway. And there's a lot that's impossible in this movie. So
Well, you see the platform. Sometimes you actually even see the platform. They just don't care about even covering that up.
well, it's also it's nice that they all get to film in the Bahamas and have a good time. But that's the downside: is the water there is crystal
real clear.
So the whole thing where they're standing around going, "We don't know where the shark
Where's
is." We don't know
the
where the shark is.
shark?
It's like, there it is. Or get someone up high on the mast. You have masts on the boat.
Plus, it keeps we're getting the points. So in Jaws 2, you know, a good scene is which you haven't seen, but a good scene is it chases a water skier, and you get Jaws going pretty fast behind the water skier, but it's above them. You see the skis above it because it's under the water, and then it comes up and you see the fin a little bit, but then it goes back down, and it's a well shot scene. In this, you keep seeing the shark's point of view from above the water, but then nobody can see it.
He's using a parachute.
It's almost playing peekaboo or something, you know. It's like so
Also,
I see you.
for plot purposes, they make the shark real slow sometimes,
it's really slow.
especially when he's chasing Michael.
Yeah.
Well, in the scene-
when he's swimming.
Yeah.
And it can't
Well,
catch
when he
him.
goes through the boat, when he swims through the sunk boat, he passes through.
That's
they
all right.
show
That's quite
multiple
good.
narrow doors.
Yeah.
That are way more narrow than the jaws of the shark.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they just as long as we don't show that.
And
you know.
I think that's the scene they took out of Jaws 3. I have a feeling that's the one they took out of the Jaws 3 script. Yeah. Yeah, because
I
even
think
in
they
Jaws,
also did it in Deep Blue Sea, but whatever.
yeah, and I'm going on the fact that in Jaws 3 they have the same kind of submersibles. I think Dennis Quaid's in one of those
Yeah.
as well. So yeah. Well, I mean, I've got another quote. Roger Ebert. I've been watching a lot of Roger Ebert lately, like their worst of the year and stuff. Weirdly, they had a really funny review of this, but they didn't choose this as one of their worst of the year, which is really strange. But he had a great quote that said Joseph Sargent, the director, filmed the climax scene so incompetently there's no establishing shot. So we have to figure out what happened on the basis of empirical evidence. Which is so true. It's just like it's so rushed, you know.
There's a lot of editing that takes place, like when Lance Guest escapes, and then they. Sorry, I'm gonna have to cut that out. His burp.
That's right.
With a smash cut to him laying in bed looking at his wife,
Yeah.
and he's all sweaty, and
He's
they've
got a
already
terrified
had
look in
two
his face.
prior dream sequences.
Well, it's funny because he's got a terrified look in his face, and he looks like he's scared because they've just had sex or something.
She won't stop. She will not stop.
But then there's also the we are having sex in the welding shed, and it cuts to and you laughed because it cuts to them chumming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of gross. That's
Real gross.
Yeah.
And that's not on purpose. That's not the director having a good time. Like the fish at the start frying in a pan.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to be clever a couple of times, but it's just not working. So yeah.
And if he was being intentional,
I should say actually something I have forgotten to say. So this is a Christmas movie because Sean is killed on December the 18th.
Yep.
And the shark is killed.
Thank you. This
on
is the segue I was going to head into.
January the 5th. The shark's killed on January the 5th.
Right. So they do have the whole awkward scene of them opening Christmas presents and talking over each other.
Yeah.
That just goes on way too long. Where someone mentions the brother as someone might.
Did you
on
spank
Christmas
him?
Yeah, the little 5-year-old and
With a tea set. And she keeps fucking going about tea set.
yeah.
The whole film.
Apparently, all this little girl wanted was a tea set. I mean, I know how 5-year-olds are. I mean, there's probably more real, But as far as the movie goes,
Can we have tea on the beach again?
But that's going to be her business now for the rest of the movie. Is this effing tea set?
Well, she just mentions having tea. Michael Caine just tells terrible stories. Mario Van Peebles does a bad accent and does bad jokes. They all have like their shtick.
Yeah. They also...
The wife's Randy.
I assume gave Mario Van Peebles a significant other, as often you would do back then, because I don't remember the woman having any lines, except for maybe...
She had some.
She had a couple, yeah.
And she ran after the kid in the water, too.
Yeah, but it would seem like that, like, let's not have any, like, confusion about the relationship between Lance Guest and Mario Van Peebles. Let's make sure that he's firm heterosexual. She does... It's a completely extraneous character aside from that.
Yeah, it's kind of very thankless role. But then, to be honest, apart from Lorraine Gary, I think all the roles in this are pretty thankless. I mean... Well,
there's thankless, and then there's pointless.
Yeah.
And literally, it's like you could have had the entire movie. I bet people who've seen this movie years ago are like, Mario Van Peebles had a girlfriend or wife in the movie? Like, I bet you they have no memory of that woman existing at all.
Yeah.
Because she just doesn't I mean...
Plus, you've got these weird characters who turn up who are kind of like, funnily, more entertaining than the main characters. Like, you have the chauffeur driver who's singing the Christmas song.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
My guess is that was, like, really happened and they just recorded it. Like, they're like, oh yeah, let's have him do that.
But he's doing it into a microphone or something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. In that limo was beat to hell. Did you guys... It was just like...
We're not going to pay for it.
You shouldn't raise questions in the movie of, like... Why is the limo beat to hell?
There's also, I mean, I didn't bother saying rewind there, but it's like, there's also like the mayor or whatever, who's a bit like a kind of Lou Gossett Jr., who's kind of like, we want to thank this woman for this wonderful sculpture. And it's like, and he's just going off on one in the background. And you're like, is any of this important or valid?
I think the director was trying to do some of what
colourful characters.
Spielberg. Well, and Spielberg also knew how to like manage the sound of like this is kind of going on in the background.
With the fisherman.
We're going to fade it out, and then we're going to have this other conversation.
Yeah.
Or whatever else is going on in the scene. But it just. I mean, it could have been the sound mix on the DVD. It could have been my television, but it just it didn't work. It was just felt like chaos. Like literally, you didn't need to understand what people were saying in the movie, especially oddly Michael Caine.
Yeah,
who was just start telling stories, which was supposed to be his thing. Magical.
Well, he's just doing anecdotes, which is he's obviously famous for in real life, but it almost it becomes a parody very quickly.
Yeah,
and Jamie's laughing at the end because the credits start and he's still doing a fucking anecdote, and he just carries on over the credits for a couple of minutes. It's like the plane's like it's finished, the film's finished, the plane's gone. My Caine's still going. And then I said to him, no, you shouldn't buy him that size. You should buy him this size. It's just still going.
I wanted it to go throughout the full credit sequence, but it didn't. Opportunity wasted.
Yesterday, I went to go buy some socks. Couldn't decide between blue and black.
Yeah. It's an experience.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned that there's the whole pursuit of like Michael Caine pursuing his mother and like this like middle-aged romance or whatever's
being
going on.
A shark, as Jamie said.
But it takes up so much frickin' real estate in the movie. Which is another thing that tells you Lauren Gary had her hands all over it.
Well, yeah, even I'm 45 now. I don't want to see two 45-year-olds walking down the beach with their trousers rolled up, talking about, you must be a little bit sad. I'm a little bit sad because my son died. Well, perhaps you could talk to a stranger and that would make it a bit better. And it's like, oh, is this a Jaws film? What's going on?
It's a Summer's Eve commercial.
Oh my god.
There's also the great scene that makes no sense of, well, it's right at the beginning, or this isn't tied to that, but right after he's had Lance Guest has talked to Lauren Gary, and now he's talking to his wife, and then he just runs off after a bunch of seagulls.
Right.
Yeah. When he's talking, so there's a couple of scenes in this. That's one of them, and Mario Van Peebles does one later, where they're actually talking almost gibberish. You can't understand what they're saying, and it's almost like Lance Guest just goes, oh, fuck it. And then it just runs off because it's like, oh, he runs out of script. You know?
He's trying to run away from the movie.
Let's sue him, bring him back.
I don't know if we mentioned this or not. Did we talk about how they used clips from Jaws in
A
this
little bit,
yet?
yeah, please.
Yeah.
Well, worse than that is they try to recreate a scene.
Yeah.
The great scene of Roy Schneider and the little kid
Breakfast
with Michael and his daughter. And it just goes on and on. It's like,
Yeah.
we get it. And it's just, it's horrible.
It's a textbook example of showing how good Spielberg was and how poor this imitation is.
Yeah.
In every sense. It's almost like a kind of microcosm for the film.
Don't reference a better movie.
And also, I mean, we've kind of mentioned it a bit, but like, so Lorraine Gary, not only does she have 2 dream sequences, Lance Guest has 1 dream sequence where they're like attacked by a shark. Oh no, they're not really. But they have these kind of flashbacks to Jaws from a perspective when she wasn't there. So it's either the wrong angle or she wasn't there. I mean, the one where at the end they show, Roy Schneider on the sinking ship going, smile, you son of a bitch. That's from the shark's point of view. Mm-hmm. But it's not even from this shark's point of view. It's from a shark that was blown up.
Well, it was his dad, so maybe there's the psychic link, right?
But Lorraine Gary is seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she's got the psychic link with the shark.
Part of the shark hive mind at this point. Yeah. But Lorraine Gary also has a lot of lines, like when she said it's not enough that she shows it. There's also a lot of telling in the movie.
Yeah.
And she says to Michael, well, I remember when you and Sean used to imitate your dad, which, I mean, maybe this was something we saw in this one scene. Maybe it's something that happened a whole bunch. It still feels like an awkward line. But there's a lot of dialogue like that where she'll just start telling something that used to happen in these like really weird, clunky ways. Well, all the dialogue's terrible. The script is got issues. When you say it went through in 9 months, that totally makes sense because that means they had about 2 drafts.
It feels like a TV movie and a bad TV movie.
Oh, real bad TV movie.
Yeah, and even just the look of it. I mean, even the opening credits, it just doesn't feel like a theatrical movie. I mean, Jaws 3 still felt like a theatrical movie.
Yeah.
Whereas this just feels like, some Hallmark. Hallmark classic.
She was stranded in the Bahamas when she met
Santa Jaws.
Oh dear. I'm trying to think of anything else good about it. I mean, like I said earlier, so Hank Sells did a novelisation where they upset the witch doctor, and he put a curse. I don't know how they upset the witch doctor. I can't remember now. I think it was because Michael Brody was kind of calling him out on like not actually having any powers. Ooh, mistake. And so he kind of put a hex on him.
Yeah.
But it's great because at the end, so in the novelisation, which sounds a lot better than the film. At the end, you still got Hoagie and Mario Van Peebles.
By the way, when we thought the shark had eaten a hoagie, that's just manna from heaven right there.
Can you smoke a hoagie as well? No, it's a stogie, isn't it?
That's a stogie.
That's a stogie.
You could try, I guess.
Let's just make a sandwich. But you still had them chasing after, trying to get to Ellen, the 3 of them. But they were being chased by the drug dealers in the novelisation, who Hoagie was working against. And I just read this last night. It just made me laugh because it said the chief drug dealer falls out of the plane and gets eaten, which sounds very Benny Hill to me.
Yakety sax.
I don't think this has happened too often, but I think that this is a movie that could totally stand to be remade.
Yeah?
No, I don't mean in a good way. I mean, like, someone could have a lot of fun remaking this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can see, like...
Well, for years...
Amy Poehler as, like, Ellen Brody. Like, I can see this happening.
Well,
it could be really good.
Master Pancake, the comedy group in Austin who kind of do laughter tracks over films and kind of, mock them. For years, I was going to take this as a choose-your-own pancake. Mm-hmm. Because they hadn't done it, and I was like, I'm amazed they haven't done it. And then I think eventually, a couple of summers ago, they actually did do it. They showed Jaws and Jaws 2 and Jaws 3 at the lake, and they actually did a laughter track on this and took the mickey out of it. And I thought, finally they've got around to it. Because it is, it is just like ripe for picking, it's really poor.
So we talked about the fact that it happens during Christmas, but it's interesting because I'm just fascinated by movies that take place at Christmas where it totally doesn't matter.
No.
Like, was it the release date? Was the release date at Christmas? Was that?
No, it came out in the summer.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And I like the fact that they kind of try to shake it up and don't do it as summer, don't do the 4th of July for a change. But they don't really use it. I think after that opening scene with Sean, they don't really use it. I mean, there's Christmas Day where they're opening their presents.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah, they have I think it's suggested they're at New Year's when they're all at the casino.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when they dress up, that's New Year's Eve, I guess. But yeah.
But it's odd.
You have the weird parade.
Yeah,
it's Simon James Bond.
You're right. Between the casino and that, it's like, your entire experience at the Bahamas comes from seeing a few Bond movies.
We're also early on Michael Caine. They're like, hey Hoagie, is it true you're going to have to work for the rest of your life because you lost so much money at the casino? And he's like, that's true. And then later on New Year's Eve, they go, what's going on over there? What's Hoagie's gambling again? And Michael Caine's going like, I want you to put everything on red. And then he lets Ellen roll the dice and he loses everything.
No, she won't. She refuses.
Oh no,
he does it.
So he does it?
Yeah.
And then he's like, easy come, easy go. And you're like, this guy is obviously an addict and he's lost all his stuff and he's like, what's going on? This is strange. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that it's good for Lance Guest to be concerned about his mom hooking up with Hoagie.
Yeah.
The guy with the sketchy airplane business.
He's scarier than the shark.
Yeah. But,
preying on widows.
Yeah. It definitely has that vibe of this dude just picks up every widow who comes down to the Bahamas, throws on the English charm.
Well, he's even got a line where he invites her to go somewhere, to another island, and she goes, I bet you ask lots of ladies there. He goes, yeah, but I like you the most, or something like that.
Yeah, well, there's something about, like, I'm interested in a woman who talks back, or something like that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to have a conversation with himself, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he does.
And then he does. And then he tells a story.
He'd rather talk over everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a festive, shark-based Christmas movie. There's not nearly enough of them in the canon.
Trying to think of something good to say about it.
You guys told me about...
the Bahamas are pretty.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. No, it does. There are some really nice shots.
I'm proud that Lance Guest and his wife are having a good sex life, as we were told repeatedly.
Flicking panties.
Yeah.
That was
PG-13.
real inappropriate.
Yeah.
They were still figuring out PG-13 at this point. Yeah.
I mean, I think the novelisation is good, which has nothing to do with the film, really. And then I think the music's pretty good.
Yeah, because it was based on John Williams.
Yeah. Well, he kind of. You're right. He did use the theme, but I think the rest of it, he did a pretty good job of sea shanty-ish type, music. Same as the guy who did Jaws 3. That's actually the soundtrack's better than the film.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to bring this movie to a screenwriting class to just go dissect,
Fillet.
Yeah.
Fillet this film.
Figure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would have corrected, as you said at the beginning, how you would have corrected the actual premise of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always come back to when I think of this. I think, the actual idea was just really stupid. And for some reason they said, let's try it. Mm-hmm. Let's go with it. Let's, give it a kind of like voodoo spin. Mm-hmm. But then they took kind of that out of the film. They cut that out, edited that out of the film.
My guess is someone told them it was racist.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily wrong.
Do you think even in 87 they'd have been bothered by that?
That's a good question. But I maybe it was the way that it played. I mean, the other thing I'm wondering, what you say they didn't do, is I'm wondering if they were like, everything that's inessential to the Brody family, like the drug dealers and the voodoo priest, it needs to be about them and the shark. We can't afford anything else because we're sending Michael Caine to the Bahamas. His bar tab alone.
Keeps ordering those drinks.
Yeah. Another Bahama Mama. Could you please say Bahama Mama for me, please?
Bahama Mama.
Can you now say it as Michael Caine?
Bahama Mama. I love 2 Bahama Mamas. I think we're laughing at this and it is entertaining, but I think it also treats the audience like we're idiots, and I think it tried to get away with really kind of getting away with the lowest common denominator in a lot of areas, and that might not have been particularly the director's fault. I'm sure it was a very rushed schedule, and I'm sure the script was a total mess, but it really does cut a lot of corners, way too many corners for a theatrical film.
Yeah. And
it killed the franchise. It killed it stone dead. I mean, the director...
Which is maybe good, right? I mean...
Yeah.
You didn't need to have... I mean, like, you sent me the Jaws 25 trailer or whatever. Like, I don't know how many Jawses you ever actually needed. There's a point at which it's a fish that's underwater, right? It's causing problems. That's all it's going to do.
Yeah.
And we've seen myriad adaptations of what the problems you can have with, in other Deep Blue Sea and...
Well, we've both seen Terminator recently, the new Terminator, and it's kind of funny with that how they kind of kill off a main character at the start, and they've got a lot of kind of blowback about that. And the main reason I think the new Terminator's failed isn't because it's not particularly good, because it's fine, it's entertaining. It's just because we've seen it 6 times before now, and
Terminator fatigue,
and it is the same story. It's like somebody sent back to protect the savior. A nasty Terminator sent back to kill him. Let's have a truck chase. Let's have a factory fight. Tick the boxes.
Yeah, but it's also why you can have take Batman. Batman's as much about the villains ever as it is about Batman himself. Batman's going to have a B plot. Your A plot's going to be whatever's really going on with the villain, and whatever's going on there. We'll advance Batman's story some here, but it's really about what's going on with Mr. Freeze. What's his deal?
Yeah, so it's only as strong as the villain, really.
Yeah, and here it's like, well, a shark has no personality until this movie.
Yeah,
and if you're gonna go with the whole thing of it shoving logs into buoys, then you need to run with that shit, and they kind of do. I mean, it's a very clever shark.
Yeah, it's incredibly clever.
But anyway, I think that's probably all we need to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Don't watch Jaws the Revenge.
Do watch Jaws the Revenge. Gather the whole family around the TV this holiday season. And
watch Jaws first, then watch Jaws the Revenge.
Yes.
Actually, something I did mention, I'll mention it real quick. So, years ago, I watched these drunk with a friend of mine at college, and we watched all the Jaws movies. And we actually did the thing that you and I did once at the Alamo with the RoboCop. We watched them in reverse order.
Oh, good, yeah.
Which I think is the sensible way to do it, because they get better. And I remember arguing with my friend over, which was the worst. I think he said, I think at the time I said this was worse than Jaws 3, and he flip-flopped on that. He said, no, this is better.
Really?
I think this one's grown on me, because I think this one is just so stupid. Now.
I can totally see that. It's enjoyable to watch. I was having a ball.
Yeah. It's like, whereas Jaws 3, I guess, has silly bits, but it's still trying to take it a bit seriously.
Yeah.
So, so it's just kind of interesting.
Jaws 3 is just clunky.
Yeah.
And
it's also kind of cobbled or crippled a little bit by trying to do the 3D thing, which quite often doesn't work.
I've never seen it in 3D. I've only seen the bits I'm like, well, that was supposed to be 3D. That was supposed to be 3D. Yeah.
It's got people poking sticks at the screen for no reason and stuff. Or grass coming at the screen, clumps of grass.
All right. Well, happy holidays.
Yeah.
And
happy
we'll
holidays.
be back soon with more Christmas adjacent fun.
Merry Christmas.
about wraps it up for this edition of The Signal Watch, a production of the League of Melbotus. Thanks for sticking with us. If you enjoyed this podcast, we invite you to drop on by the Signal Watch blog, where you'll find write-ups of a wide variety of movies and more. You can drop comments on this podcast and let us know what you think. We do have a Signal Watch Patreon, and if you're so moved, we'd most certainly appreciate your support. We'll be back soon with more exceedingly high-quality content. So, until next time, God damn it, babies. You've got to be kind.